This call is being
Okay.
recorded.
Hey everyone, it's Dave Barnett, and this is another holiday chat call. I'm joined on the line by Ree, who comes to us from Southwest Florida, and is an owner along with some family members of a Japanese restaurant that they have been trying to sell. And just before the chat, Ree and I were talking a little bit about how she ended up becoming part owner of the business, and it is quite a tale. And I'm wondering, Ree, if we shouldn't just start by having you explain how you and your brothers ended up owning a Japanese restaurant.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for this. I've just been so lucky that you have taken my call. I'm so lucky that there was that one spot available for me, and so I'm really honored to be here. Okay. So first of all, I was sort of the breadwinner. We moved from the Philippines to the United States. I moved here first, and so I was always the breadwinner of the family, always thinking about my siblings. So there were six of us, and so anyway, one of my brothers is a good cook, and he always talks about having a restaurant someday. So it's his dream. So we finally had this chance to buy a restaurant from a friend of mine who was a sushi owner in Southwest Florida, and they decided to move to Japan. And my brother was one of their chefs there, and so he was working for them for 6 years. And so the first person they asked if anyone is interested to buy the business, it was him.
Mm-hmm.
So he talked to me, and I've just gotten divorced, bankrupt from the real estate crash. But so I have a little bit of money left in my retirement account. And since I really like my brother, I love him. I want for his dream to be realized. I cashed in my retirement money and put it into this business. So this is how we came about.
So
A
was
lot
it
of my friends say that I'm a good cook. So, but I'm not specifically involved in the kitchen or in the sushi making. My brother is.
okay? And so, are there any
So,
other family members involved?
yes. So his wife is involved. My other brother, who moved from Saudi Arabia to join us because he was a computer genius, so he automated our system. And my business was involved in transcription, and we were just starting to offer digital marketing, and that's when I met my friend who's a business broker at that time. And so for when we bought the business, it was like 3 months into it, I was realizing that it was a big mistake to go into business with your siblings.
So, when you said you had a chance to buy a Japanese restaurant from a
A
friend,
friend, yes.
so your friend was the business broker, or you found out about this through your brother, who the owner told he could buy the
Uh,
restaurant?
they they were the owners of the Japanese restaurant, and my brother was working for them. So we were friends, and
Okay.
yeah, so
So
we were friends.
so
Go ahead.
I just lost the story when you said you had a friend who was a business broker. Where does the business broker fit into this?
Oh, the business broker fit in a way that after, hold a second. Sorry, the business broker entered into the picture when, after 3 months of operating the restaurant,
Oh, I
we
get you.
all decided we cannot do this as a family. We have to sell this business. This is a mistake. It's not, we are not meant to be together in one roof trying to
Okay.
run, a business.
So
It was unfortunate.
what were some of the problems that were coming up that led you to that decision?
Oh, for example, I have a grand idea about issuing coupons to a lot of friends and possibly garnering new customers. Um, my brothers are very conservative in a way that they think that I should not be giving away coupons. It's just one of those examples.
Mm.
Or changing some of the layout of the interior design because I found out that they're very superstitious.
Mhm.
I mean, I moved to the U.S. before then, so they all say that I've been westernized. I don't know why
Okay.
they say that. So they said I should be following some of the Philippine superstitions, specifically in running the business. So I told them, no, that's not necessary. This place needs some type of update. And so they were not open to that. And oh, but we changed our menu. It's a really cool menu. and
So let me ask you a few more questions about how you got going.
Sure.
Did you guys organize yourselves? Like, did you create job descriptions or lists of responsibilities so that it was clear who was doing what in the business?
Yes, actually, we did. We were organized in that manner. One of my brothers said we have to create an organizational chart.
Hmm.
Who does this? Who does that? So, but it was never followed, which I was very surprised. And I guess to add to the confusion, the two sister-in-laws wanted to get involved, so that added a lot of emotional ingredients to
Mm.
the recipe, to say the least. And so they wanted their own ideas heard, and there was a lot of petty fighting, which very very surprising. So those things that they were not getting along, and that was very unfortunate because the business, the building is really nice. There's a lot of potential. You know.
So before I got on the line with you today, um, I was preparing breakfast for me and the kids, and my two children got into a fight over something so ridiculous. I think it was about where one of them put the orange peels from peeling an
Correct.
orange, right?
That's very
And
familiar. Deja vu.
and so and so I'm wondering in a family business with siblings that are working there, do you think things would have been much different if your mother or father had been in this business?
That's very interesting to say. Our father passed away, and the first few weeks of our training with the new owners, our mother had a heart attack,
Mm,
and she had a bypass surgery. So I was taking care of her, and we were taking turns taking care of her while we were getting trained to buy the business.
mm,
So if you're an Asian, maybe you will say, maybe God doesn't want me to buy this business. Look, there's a sign here. Maybe I should take care of my mother full time and not enter into a business.
mm. Yeah.
So, my mother was very proud of us because she thought that we could all work together, and she had a dream also about, having a good family business that will somehow plant roots, you know, so that the other generation could take over
Mm.
and prosper the business, hopefully.
Do you think
So,
that do you think if you had bought the restaurant and hired your brothers to work for you, do you think that that would have had a different dynamic in the business?
yes, I believe so. Because prior to the restaurant business, my brothers were working for me, helping me in my transcription business.
Mm.
So I was in charge 100% because,
Right.
of course, I was paying them and they will do whatever I ask them to do.
So in the family business, what because I've seen this before in other family businesses, and what what happens is if there's a business that's organized with someone who's clearly in charge and everyone's willing to follow the order of things, then they can work well. And when you hired your brothers in your previous business, it was absolutely clear that you were the boss and they were workers, right?
Correct.
And when you became partners in the restaurant, um, even though you had an org chart which maybe said that one of you was the manager of the restaurant, and if
Correct.
a restaurant manager decides to put out coupons, that's their authority. They do that.
Yes.
But the other people in your family, they didn't see it anymore as this order of authority because they thought that you guys were all equal. It
Correct.
was, and so even though something might have been your authority to make a decision on, like the coupons, they feel like they can just act in a committee all the time.
Correct. Which I respected them in that way because I recognized that they had an authority. So what I did was I stepped back and I said, you know what? I respect you. You're a good cook. This is what you want to do. This is your dream. So, I'll be here to support you. I will not make a decision anymore. I will not make a suggestion. I stopped making suggestions. I
Mhm.
just let them be. So for like 3 or 4 months, I just let them be and I never interfered anymore and that's how the book came about.
Mhm.
I stepped back and I just let them be so that I mean, I believe I've got kids, so I want them to be independent. And I've always, I was always their elder sister. And so if even, for me to stop arguing about little things, I said, you know what, just do whatever you want. Because I think you need to learn from this. You need to learn from your mistakes. It will cost us something, but in the end, it's better for you to learn from the mistakes than not at all. So that was
So
my approach.
So, Ree, you mentioned a book because, and this was interesting because you're the first person that, well, no, you're not actually. There was a guy named Paul who had written some books that called in, but
Oh,
you're the
really?
first,
Okay.
you're the first restaurateur that I've met who has been so frustrated that you've written a book sort of as a therapy, I guess, right? To get
Yes.
down your feelings about what had happened in the restaurant. So you bought it with your brothers. 3 months later, you decided you should sell, and you still own it with them, right?
Correct. Correct.
How long has it been now since you bought it?
We bought it let's see, the first quarter of 2017.
So
The
it's been almost 2 years.
Yeah, yes. The inspiration about the book was prior to closing on the restaurant. Um, I have I've met so many challenges with the old owners,
Mm.
and because we thought we were friends, but during training, I found out many little things that it wasn't pretty, and that sort of affected the friendship because my Japanese friend insisted on, some of her rigid ways that needed to be followed. Yet
Mm.
she was on her way out, you know, and she insisted on her own processes. But she didn't. She criticized us so much that she believed that the way we did it was not acceptable, and that's one of the things also that I sort of discussed in the book.
Mm.
And that was sad because we were really good friends, and after that they just stopped communicating.
Mm. When you bought the restaurant, what was the deal? What did the deal look like? Did you pay a certain amount of money and then did you give them all the money on closing day?
They agreed that to pay them a down payment and then the balance payable in a year. So we never missed payment, and so we pay them monthly for
Hmm.
whatever balance we owe them. And yeah, we were on time paying them because I was depositing the payment monthly on their bank account.
Okay. Okay. Um, so what has happened since you decided to sell? You said you approached someone who was a business broker, and what was that like? What happened there?
The guy whom I met was reportedly a top business broker in Southwest Florida and Atlanta. So he was a semi-expert, or he sells. He claims to have sold a lot of restaurants in the area and Atlanta. He was an immigrant, and so we really worked well together because he understood that mentality, and in the process, while we were talking together, he knew that I wanted to get out of the restaurant business, and I had a transcription business, and he said that one of his digital marketers was gone, so he wanted to hire our company, and which we did. We worked for him in the process, and so I learned a lot in the business brokerage world with regard to digital marketing.
Hmm.
So I helped him with advertising the business. I said, okay, well, I have this restaurant for sale. We can work on that. And so yes, so I learned about the biz buy sell, business for sale, businesses for sale. So many avenues out there online to sell your business. But prior to that, I already started listening to your podcast, and I respect what you do, David. Your content out there is just out of this world, and I congratulate you for all your accomplishments, because that is not an easy work. I can understand when I've done some digital marketing for him. I insisted on him creating regular content because I told him this is very important. But sometimes the energy is not there, or there's not a whole lot of time to do everything you need to do.
What
So,
what can you tell me what has there been much in the way of traffic as far as buyers coming to talk with you, making inquiries about
well,
the business?
okay, he said that because this is a Japanese restaurant, so it is a specialty restaurant. It's unlike a barbecue, an American barbecue that could easily sell. I don't really understand why is that. Because I've known some you know local people who would buy an Asian restaurant, because they like it. They have a business acumen or a background to run an Asian restaurant. So, that's what he was saying. We did not have a lot of leads.
Mm.
We started it at listing it at 179,000, and right now, it's I've reduced it to 130,000. And the fact that I really don't want to go back there full time, because my brother's threatening me to say, okay, by 2019, the first week, you got to come here full time now, and we need to work together now. So I kind
So
of,
let me ask you a few questions about the business. So
sure.
you don't own the real estate. This is a leased location, I'm guessing.
Correct, but I have an opportunity because I've talked to the landlord. So it is possible to buy the building, because when we bought the business, I've talked to the landlord, and I was so excited at that time. I called him up and I said, what's the chance of you selling the building? He said, well, yeah, sure, I would sell it to you. He was
Mm.
actually willing to finance it. And if I just had $100,000 to put down, he was willing to finance the rest of it.
What
And
what kind of
at that time,
what kind of sales have you had in the last 12 months? Like total revenue?
total revenue gross sales about $300,000. We were affected by the red tide in the area in September and October.
Mhm.
So there is a reduction in sales revenue.
What What about your brothers? Do they want to sell the business, or would they like to stay in this business? Is there an opportunity for them to stay in it without you?
There is an opportunity, actually. One of the brothers would want to continue cooking. If the new owners that would come in would want him to stay, and of course, when we sell it, if we find a buyer, when we find a buyer, we would give everything, the recipe, of course, train them how to make the sushi, everything.
No, but what I'm
So,
what I'm
but
saying is what I'm saying is,
he is
Ree,
willing to stay. Yes.
how about him just buying you out?
He cannot afford it at this time because I was the one who put in the lion's share of the money needed to buy the restaurant.
Hmm. What?
So,
How much did you guys pay for it?
well, I we paid about $90,000.
Okay. And then did you do other things to improve it?
Yes, we did. The we changed the some of the kitchen appliances,
Hmm.
the freezer, the ice maker, a new lease on the dishwasher, and some furniture and fixtures. So the build out is really nice. We're getting a lot of compliments about that, and
What
even the food.
what what were the previous owner's sales in the 12 months leading up to selling to you?
I believe they were averaging about 350,000 or 300. Not even 400,000 a year.
Hmm.
I mean, I do want to grow the business, but it's there's that challenge.
Yeah. I mean, without seeing your P&L and seeing what what your expenses are and everything, really the the simplest way to kind of look at a restaurant is by looking at the top line, because it can be managed in so many different ways, especially with
Yes.
family. And
Mhm.
in a family run business, different members can be taking different salaries, and it doesn't always relate to the work that they're doing. Sometimes people, couples will share an income because it's better for tax purposes, things like that. So
Correct.
what what I often see is that restaurants sell for 20 to 30% of sales, which would show me that, you probably got an okay deal buying the place. But with sales that have gone down,
Correct.
the restaurant's probably worth less than what you paid for it.
Huh. Well, I was gonna say if somebody wants to buy it at 99,000 right now, sold. But but you think that's not the case?
Well, no, people don't generally. I think what has happened here is a really great example of what happens so often with restaurants.
Yeah.
Many of the buyers who buy restaurants are people from the hospitality industry.
Uh-huh.
So they are bartenders, servers, cooks, and they work in a business like this, and they always
Correct.
dream to own one. They always have that
Yeah.
dream. And then an
Correct.
opportunity will come up, and they'll figure out a way to do it. And in your brother's case, he figured he could bring you into it to help him make this purchase, and you did. And
Yes.
so, so he found the opportunity because he was already working there. And
Yes.
now he's still working there, and you've stepped back, which means he now basically is running the place, I'm guessing.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he's
So,
realizing that, of course, sometimes he couldn't even get paid on a regular basis. Of course, we
mm,
have to pay our employees first. And I told him that the priorities are the workers, and then we have to, unfortunately, get paid last.
mm.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
So so how much money did you put into this to make this purchase happen?
Oh, I put in about $42,000.
Okay. So, um, here would be the problem that your business broker is having.
Uh huh.
If if somebody was interested in owning a sushi restaurant, and they
Yep.
found the listing, they
Uh-huh.
might call him up and now we have almost 2 years of results, but you probably haven't you haven't done your year end for 2018 yet to send it over to him. So he's probably got a year of results. He's got 1 year of tax returns. The old results under the previous owner are still there available to him, but what they're going to show is a decline from the
Yeah.
previous owner to you.
Yeah, which is,
And
I know, unfortunate, right?
yeah, well, the other thing though is that the history is simply going to be short.
Yeah.
And to a lot of buyers, what that indicates is that there are problems with the business. You've got a hot potato. You know the game hot potato children play?
Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
so you have a hot potato and you're trying to pass it off onto somebody else.
Uh-huh.
And so a lot of buyers are going to be scared off just by the scenario that you're trying to
Uh-huh.
resell it so quickly, right?
Yeah.
And so if you wanted to sell the business, what my advice would be is that you need to get 3 years of your own results under your belt. So 17, 18, and 19. And ideally, if you could have a growth in 19 that would show that the business was growing over those 3 years, and forget the
Mhm.
results of the previous owner, then
Okay.
you could probably start to put together a more attractive presentation to a potential buyer.
Mhm. Yeah.
But more simply, I would ask, why don't you just simply offer to sell your share to your brother and just tell him he owes you 42 grand and he can pay you over time?
Hmm.
Because
Okay.
if you were making payments to the previous owner, then the business should be able to make some kind of payment to you.
Yeah. Okay. That's very good. But now, I mean, realistically, he cannot afford it. I know he cannot. And that is why I came into the picture and helped him out financially
Hmm.
to get this restaurant. And now that he's saying that, sort of um, have the white flag and say, okay, you know what, we're ready for you to come in, and we need your help now.
So so here's what has happened then. If the cash flow existed before to make payments and now it does not, it
Correct.
means that the business isn't operating as well as it used to, right?
Yes. Obviously. Yeah.
Okay. So if a business's value is a function of its cash flow, what
Uh huh.
has happened is under your brother's leadership, the value of this business has gone down, right? That makes
Uh
sense?
huh. Yes, it
Okay.
does.
So if instead of instead of putting your money into this restaurant, if you had bought money, say in the telephone company, and it was on the stock exchange,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
over the course of the year, the share price had gone from $50 down to 25,
Mhm.
you would know that you had lost half your money,
Yes.
right? It'd be very easy
Yes.
for you to understand that.
Correct.
But the problem in small businesses is that we don't have a mechanism for telling us every day what the value of the business is.
Yes.
And so what you've done is you've put money into a business, and now because of the leadership that ended up taking over, the value of what you bought has gone down. So the business is probably worth less than what you guys paid for it. And now here's the big question. And this is what your stockbroker would be asking you if you bought the telephone company shares. He would say, do you want to take your losses and just leave? Or do you want to hope that the value goes back up? Now, the difference
Yeah.
between the telephone company and the restaurant is that you can't go over to the telephone company office and tell them what to do and try to improve the business,
Yeah.
but you can in this restaurant.
Yes.
And that's what makes
So,
it a little bit different.
are you suggesting that I should get involved with the business now? And
No, I'm suggesting that this is your choice that you have to make.
yeah.
Is you have because nobody's going to come along and pay you more than you bought it for. I mean, you
Mhm.
could luck out, you could happen to find someone who really needs to buy a restaurant for one reason or another.
Mhm.
Anything might happen, but what buyers want is they want a profitable business that has a history of growth that they can see themselves running and that they're going to make money from day one.
Hmm.
And if the
Yeah.
business
Is that
today,
including? I'm sorry. Is that including the E2 qualification?
yeah, because somebody and for people who are listening that are not in the US, an E2 entrant is someone who is an immigrant investor. So many
Yes.
countries have this kind of program where if you bring money into the country to buy a business, then you're going to, be on a fast track to obtaining legal residency and all that kind of thing. So um, people who come into a country and they bring with them some money and they want to, to establish themselves and work in a business, there's this idea that there are people who simply want to pay money to get citizenship early. And I've heard of this kind of thing happening. But
Hmm.
most of the newcomers that I've ever met myself have been people who are bringing all the money they have in the world.
Yes.
And they have to do a deal that's going to make sense, and they have to do a deal that's going to allow them to have an income so they can support themselves and their family.
Correct.
And so it's
So
very, very scary, right?
yeah. So let's
And
say we have somebody who is interested to buy from another country.
mhm.
What do you think would be the fair price for them to buy the business?
Well, I have no idea because I haven't looked at the numbers. But
Yeah.
the person is going to have to, this is the decision they're going to have to make. They're going to have to say, does it make sense for me to hand over a pile of money, whatever amount that is, in exchange for the salary and profit of this business that is generating today?
Hmm.
And if your brother is working there full time, and if he's like most restaurant owner chefs that I know, he's probably in there 50 or 60 hours a week. If he's working there all
Easily.
those hours and he's
Yeah.
bringing himself home 30 grand, let's say, and there's not much profit left after that,
Hmm.
you have to ask who is willing to pay to buy a $30,000 job.
Yeah.
And there could be people that are willing to pay, but then the question becomes how much,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
and
So
so you can start to see, if you think about it from that point of view,
we bought
the
a job.
value. Yeah, you bought well, you guys bought jobs, but it sounds like if you
And
bought
not a
it and
good
you
paying job.
well, but if you bought it and you were able to pay the previous owner, then maybe there was a little bit of meat left there.
Yeah.
Or
There is.
were you guys working for free basically when you were paying her?
When we were paying, yes, we were working for free.
Yeah.
But of course, when I shouldn't say that. I mean, I was working for free, but not the rest of my siblings. Like, the sister-in-laws are getting paid as far as the tips are concerned because they were actively part of the hospitality. They were servers. So whatever money, tips that we collected, they shared that. And when
Mhm.
I was serving also, I would have a share of the tips. So that's how we got paid.
So
And we reported that.
you and the sister-in-laws were not getting a wage, you were just getting tips.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
correct.
that's not getting paid, you know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, because the minimum wage for waitress, is what, $3, $4 an hour, and when you have a good night, it is a good night, and it's still a substantial amount of money with regard to tips. So they were happy. I
okay.
mean, I was like, we should earn more than that.
So
So,
so let me ask you this. If I was going to want to open a, that TV show on that it's a cartoon, it's called Bob's Burger. You ever see that?
part of it, that's my daughter's favorite animation. Yeah.
My daughter likes it too. So if I was looking for a place in Florida to open up my own Bob's Burger, my Dave's Burger,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and I walked into your sushi restaurant, I would see a kitchen with plumbing and stovetops and grills and venting already in place, and there'd be a
Uh-huh.
dining room, and there'd be everything I would need to open Dave's Burger.
Burger, yes.
But if I took over your place, it would be far cheaper than renting a spot in a brand new building.
Correct.
because all I would have to do is redecorate.
Yes.
So the question is, how much money would I save if I took over your spot instead of starting a brand new spot?
You will save a ton, David. I can
Mhm.
guarantee you because the furniture and fixtures we have are relatively new. So
Mhm.
if you sit down and calculate, how much you will spend to start a brand new David's Burger
Mhm.
versus buying a restaurant, I believe you will save more. So we could say, what is that? An asset sale instead of selling the business. Are we going in that direction? You know,
Well, what I'm trying to open the door to is this idea, and again, this happens a lot in the restaurant business, is that the
mhm.
restaurants don't actually sometimes sell because of anything to do with their sales or earnings. They sell
Yeah.
on what's called a redevelopment value, which
Okay.
is the value to somebody who has a restaurant idea and they
Correct.
want to save money by taking over an existing restaurant location because it's cheaper than building something new,
You're right. You're absolutely right. And
right?
this applies to that scenario. I believe so. Yes.
So if you start to look at what it would cost to build something new, then in order for you to be attractive, you have to offer something that the new location wouldn't have. Because the new
Mhm.
location, of course, is going to be brand spanking new, right? Which means
Correct.
that your opportunity would either have to be cheaper or it would have to come with some kind of, maybe financing terms that you couldn't get,
Incentives. Yes.
incentives. Yeah.
Yes.
So
The
I,
thing is, there are regular customers, but
Mhm.
my argument with my brother is, yes, I love those regular customers, but they're not enough to sustain our living. We have to
Mm,
get new customers, coming in and growing the business, expanding your cash flow, increasing it,
mm,
being able to go home and say, even though you put in 60 hours of work a week, you should be happy that you should be getting paid,
yeah.
you know?
So,
So,
collectively, if you guys are looking at selling this thing, I think you have to be looking at what we call a redevelopment value. And you
mhm,
have to say, and you're probably looking at the price you paid or maybe a bit less with the willingness to finance it so that some guy who currently, if I work over at Bob's Burger and my dream is always to own my own Dave's Burger, that you show me that I can make it happen with you.
yes. Okay. Yeah.
And maybe that
We
maybe
are.
that means maybe that means if I find 10 or 15,000 to put down and you're willing to finance the balance, I can open Dave's Burger,
Hmm.
right?
It's
Mm.
yes, it's negotiable. So yes, if there's somebody out there who would want to pay us X amount of down payment and work uh, out some type of term to pay the rest of it, like what we did with the old owners,
Mm.
sure, I'm open to that.
So here's the thing though, is that the type of buyer who's looking to open his own restaurant isn't necessarily on business for sale websites.
Oh, really? Where did they go?
So they're probably looking at different storefronts that have for lease signs in them, and they're looking maybe on real estate websites looking for places that are available to rent.
Hmm.
There's a slightly different way to get to this kind of person.
Uh
And
huh.
so what your business broker may want to do is he may want to work with a commercial realtor in the area that would be working with people who are trying to locate spots for new businesses.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Because the person who's
That's a good point. Yeah.
yeah, because the person who's going to do a redevelopment of a restaurant, they're thinking about their new business.
Yeah.
That's their mindset is I'm opening a new business. They're not
Yes.
necessarily thinking that because if at first they could say, "Well, I don't want to buy a sushi restaurant. I want to open a burger place." And then, the agent or the realtor will have to say, "Well, wait a minute. If you take this place, you can redecorate it and change the name and you can do it cheaper than starting from fresh." Right?
Hmm.
And that's kind of the angle. Um,
Okay.
the
So our location should be attractive to the new buyer, right? And the
Mhm.
lease, right?
Well, and then there, how much time is left in the lease?
Right now, we have 3 years and option to renew for another 5 years.
Yeah. So there's plenty of time there in that lease for somebody to be willing to open a business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The so that's one avenue. That's one area of thought, selling it as a redevelopment. The other area of thought is to try to improve the value again, which I think would require you, you're the experienced business person. Your brother is an experienced chef,
Yes.
right? And these are different skill sets.
Yes.
And obviously there's something that you are going to be able to contribute here,
Mhm.
but what it will probably take from you is a commitment to invest maybe another year of work to improve the business and not waiting tables. See, your brother, he's probably thinking, I need you to come in here so that you can help me in the kitchen or help me in the dining room so that we can cut costs. He thinks about your labor as being more free labor to subsidize the business.
Yeah.
But that's not where your value is going to come from. Your value is going to
Mhm.
come from setting strategic direction and
Mhm.
investigating tactical business moves. So
Yeah.
strategy is, do we change our restaurant and become a, I don't know, a sushi, a German sushi fusion with Frankfurter rolls? I don't know, something crazy,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
That would be
we
a that
suggested, yeah, about combining or started to offer Filipino food,
right.
Philippine dishes.
So those would be
Uh,
strategies.
yeah.
Tactics are things for short term. So strategy is long term. Tactics is
Mhm.
short term. So tactics might be circulating a coupon that gives people a discount if they come in for lunch on Monday,
Correct. Yeah.
right? To try
Oh, and
to
we're not open for lunch. And another thing that I suggested is maybe it's time to open lunch so that we could increase our sales.
mm, yeah, whether you're open for lunch or lunch and dinner, your rent is still the same,
Correct. Yeah. And
right?
that's what I was. My argument was, we're paying X amount of dollars in rent. Why not maximize, the use of the restaurant, even providing private events
Hmm.
when the restaurant is closed during the day. And a lot of my friends have suggested about organizing ladies' luncheon, which I wanted to do, but the brothers were not open to that.
So
And
all of these things that you're talking about are
yes,
all things that any
the
business owner would
strategies.
explore as
Yeah,
opportunities, right? But
correct.
if you go back into this thing to help improve the value of the business, you have to establish authority. So you basically have to have a meeting with your brother that says, if I come back here, I'm going to become the manager,
Mhm.
and you will manage the kitchen and I will manage the restaurant, and I
Mhm.
will be in charge of our hours. I'll be in charge of our promotions. I'll be in charge of our marketing, and you will
Yeah.
not be. And you
Yeah.
you have to get his agreement of who is responsible for what, because otherwise what'll happen is just the same thing that happened before. You guys will just start arguing about everything again,
Yeah.
right?
I know it's interesting. It's just yesterday I wanted to come up with a promotional strategy, like, somebody signs up and grow our email list, and I was going to give away $120.19, but he didn't like that idea. He said, we could just use the money toward a new sign or a new thing. I said, but no, we need to improve sales. So it's just one of those things that,
But it's funny because he accused you of having become westernized,
yes.
and I have never been to the Philippines, um, but I'm guessing that in the Philippines a lot of communities. They have restaurants and things, and people are going to stores, they're going to restaurants, but there's not a lot of marketing and promotion of a small business there.
Well, it's the country. I mean, since I went there last year, and it has changed
Mm.
incredibly. I mean, it's becoming a, you know, a an incredible hub for technology
Mm-hmm.
and outsourcing. I mean, I was just impressed about the improvements that have happened there. So it's just my brother hasn't been home in a long time. So
Mm.
he still carries with him the old school tradition that I should not be removing from my system, which is a little disappointing because it doesn't apply to where we are. I mean, we're here in Florida and we have to adapt and we have to do what we can to bring people in. It does not have to do with whatever superstition he has, you know?
Well, the angle I was aiming for is that your business is in the West. So
Yeah.
as the sibling who's been quote unquote westernized, you're
Uh-huh.
actually the qualified one to make these decisions,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Unfortunately, they didn't look at it that way exactly. They didn't think that, yeah, yeah. So, but, uh, but being the elder of all of them, I just wanted to give them a chance to have their own playground. It was a very expensive hobby, to say the least.
Well,
But
How about this, Ree? You can always go in there with an ultimatum. You can always go in there and say, I want to improve the business so that I can get my money out.
yes,
So how about this? I'll be the restaurant manager and I
yeah,
will make all the decisions, or we can convert the money that I put into this business into a loan and you can
mhm,
pay me out and you can be the only owner and you can
yeah.
let him
Okay,
decide,
yeah. That's what I'll have to do.
right? And
Yeah,
just be aware that if he decides not to have your help and if things don't change, where he's likely headed is for some kind of burnout. You know, people people who work nonstop for 50, 60 hours a week and never take a vacation and always are under the stress of unpaid bills at home and things like this, they end
correct.
up with cancer.
Unfortunately, yeah,
They end up with, mental illness, cancer, all kinds of problems because
yeah,
people aren't made to live that way.
yeah. I know, and they
And
don't like it because it's like, I tell them and I try to remind them. I mean, I have my own hobbies. I play tennis, I go to dance class, and they don't. They stay home, they cook, they go to work, and they go home. That's it.
mm,
You know. But I have other, I have other hobbies that I go to because I don't believe in being secluded, or being
mhm.
just limited. Um, which, there's nothing wrong with that. If they're happy that way, I respect them. But I keep telling them that it's not a healthy, way to live if, you do not have another outlet. So, but, it's just one of those classic Asian phenomena that we just have to keep working, work hard, work hard, work hard. You know, I do. I
Yeah,
work hard.
well, but
Everybody does.
you know what though? I mean, you keep saying it's an Asian phenomenon, but it's not. It happens everywhere.
You're
There's
right.
I meet all kinds of people who are in businesses that are not going well, and one of the things they do is they're not honest with themselves, and so they don't look at the business and or they don't pay themselves a fair wage for the work that they're doing, or they do whatever they have to make it look like it's working,
Hmm.
because they don't want to deal with the idea that their business might be a failure. And It's funny because I know a guy here locally where I live, and he owns a bunch of franchise pizzerias, and
Mhm.
the franchise company brought out a new brand for submarine sandwiches, and
Oh.
they offered a deal to their pizzeria owners, like, hey, if you want to open one of these sub shops, you can get in early, and here's a good deal. So
Mhm.
he opened a couple of them, and a couple of them he made into combined stores with the pizza and the subs. And
Mhm.
one of the locations he opened for the submarine sandwiches, it was open, and it was open for a couple of years, and then it was gone. And I
Oh,
ran into him. I ran into him, and I said, "Hey, I noticed one of your
what
stores closed."
happened?
Well, I said, "I noticed one of your stores closed up there on a certain street." And he said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
He said, "I had it for 3 years. It never made any money, and as soon as the lease came up, I closed it."
Oh.
And I said, I said, "Wow." I said, "It was it hard to close a business? Was it hard to close it?" And he said, "It was not hard to close that one. Every month it lost money."
Oh,
So
yeah.
so but what the insight from this is this. That businessman knew that the businesses were little money machines. Their job was to make
Mhm.
money, right?
Mhm.
And when he opened that sub shop, he thought it was going to make money, and it never did. And as soon as he realized that it was nothing but a liability, he got rid of it. But as soon as he had
Yeah.
the chance, he closed it. And for people that work in their businesses, it often becomes very personal. So
Correct.
for your brother, the business is an extension of himself.
Yes, you're
And
right. They
if the
have this
business,
personal attachment
yeah.
to things. Yes.
So if he realized one day that he was only paying himself half of what he should be earning by being a cook in a sushi restaurant, and that really he had failed, and the best thing to do would be to close it and go find a job in another place, he would have shame, and he would feel defeated, and he would
Yes.
feel that he was a failure,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, there's a lot of
And
pride into this.
yeah.
I know it, and that's why, for 3 months, I just quit and not show up there because I wanted him to just be on his own, experience or apply what he thinks is best for the restaurant.
Mm.
So, and I think he's learned a lot being on his own. And, but I did give him an assurance saying that if you ever need me, I am here. I'm still your sister and I'm still willing to help you. But
So
you insist on certain things, certain ways, and go ahead and do what you think is best. Good luck, I said.
yeah.
So
So
yeah,
here's the
and
decision, here's the decision you have to make. You have to decide if you want to continue giving of yourself to help your brother and try to recoup your money. Because
correct,
I
yes.
think that if you become actively involved in the business in the direction of the business, and I don't
Mhm.
think you should be working in the dining room, and I don't think you should be working in the kitchen. If he wants your help, you should be going there a little bit of time to create the policies, the marketing plan, the direction of the business to try and grow the business. And once you do, then the question will be, do we really want to sell it? Or now that the business is improved, do we simply want to pay Ree her money back?
Mhm. That's
Because
fair.
maybe this is something your brother can carry on forever once he's learned how to do it well. Maybe
Yes.
he's always going to need to talk to you once or twice a week about
Yes.
ideas or things in the business. But I think
Mhm.
that if he's inviting you back, it means that he's willing now. He's gone from being in a closed state to being in an open state because he's willing
Yeah.
to accept your help.
Yes. You're right. Um yes, you're very intuitive about this. Thank you, David. That's great.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you getting the book.
No, no problem. And for anyone who wants to read Ree's story from her point of view, it is available as a Kindle book on Amazon. It's called Reasons for Selling.
Yes,
And
and it's also on paperback,
it's
and
on
I've reduced
paperback
the
too.
price. Yes.
Yeah, it's and really, I think it's great because it gives a very good insight into how you and I was only able to read about the first 20 or 30% of it before our call today, but I was impressed with the story of the woman who sold the restaurant and how um, she had a reputation for being a mean lady, and there were actually some customers who went there to experience it.
Uh-huh, I know. It's interesting, really. And I know it's, but in her own words, that's the way to do, what she needed to do. That's the way to have a successful business. And hats off to her. She said she was very successful. So, and it was just a lot of challenges that I went through with her. And so I thought, hey, this is very inspiring. I should write about this. And and it was sad that the friendship, that I lost that friendship. But in the end, she learned about me, and I learned about her. You
Yeah.
know, so so, but yes, thank you. The reason why, I mean, reasons for selling was, that was the title, because when I was doing the digital marketing for the business broker agent, and when I was doing the listings for individual businesses for sale, and
Hmm.
that caught my eye. That field that says reason for selling. And I thought, be in place. Be in the shoe of that business owner, what they had to go through, their own businesses, day in and day out. It is their life. It's not a simple task to have your own business,
Yeah.
instead of working for somebody. It's just your blood and sweat into it. So and I thought, yeah. So I said I want to write, something about this story, and some interviews, that I did with an old liquor shop owner, and his point of view, about selling, how he sold his business. So I thought it's a very interesting field out there. The process of
Mm.
selling your business, and how you go through the steps, and through your emotional investments.
Well, it is emotional, and I've often used that example of the pizza guy who had the submarine shop, because to me he really clearly showed how a true business person is detached from the business. They see
Yes,
it as an asset,
yes.
not really as an extension of themselves.
Mhm.
And if they are not working right, then you either fix it or get rid of it. And
Correct.
you know, but I've seen too many people in these scenarios like your brother's in, where they just work, 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 and then they're paralyzed because they don't either they don't know or they don't want to fix it. Um, but what they're doing seems to be getting them by, but they're not earning
Yeah.
the money they should be, and they just end up
Correct.
stuck in this place
Yes.
where they're afraid to move forward and they're afraid to close it down,
Yeah.
and it's not a good thing. But I think that you have you have experience as a business owner, and I think that you're going to be able to figure out, number one, if you can work with him now, if things have changed.
Yeah.
Number two, how can the business change to be better, make more money?
Uh
And
huh.
if you can't do it, number three, what is, and I'm not going to say the exit strategy, I'm going to say, what is the liquidation strategy?
Correct.
Because if the business is not working and it's not going to be a good business, and you can't show anyone that it's a good business, then the conversation has to change to why someone would want to take over the location with the equipment, and that conversation would be about, this space is ideal for your new restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you call that the redevelopment
It's called a
approach.
redevelopment approach. Yeah.
Interesting, which is very realistic. You're right. There's, I mean, who knows? I'm still praying. This is the 31st of December, and I'm hoping somebody would come this week, this coming New Year, who want to own a sushi restaurant, right? In Southwest Florida. It's close to the beach, and it's there are a lot of fun things about it. It's not just hard work. I think if you enter into or buying a restaurant, you just have to have an open mind that, hey, if you have another business and you want to entertain, this is another way to do it, right? But at the same time, we have to be very careful. I mean, my brothers are good about being conservative in a way that every cent has to be watched. You know, the supplies, the materials used, everything. It's got to be accounted for.
Yeah.
Which is
I
a great thing.
I think restaurants is a tough business.
It is a
And I
very
have
tough
a
business.
great deal of respect for anyone who's able to do it and make money.
Yeah,
It's a tough business. There's no question. And
yeah,
you had mentioned too about water conditions, red tide. There are
correct.
conditions in your market that you have no control over that would
Yeah,
affect the success of the restaurant.
yes. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that has affected us, the red tide. And but hopefully people will return, and good patronage coming up, and hoping for the best
Mm.
is the thing.
All right, Ree. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, David. Thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate you, and thank you for your advice.
No problem. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Take care. Thank you.
Bye bye.